Good morning and welcome to UUWH Hills. Now please rise in body and or spirit as you are able as we sing our opening hymn, For Everyone Born, which is your insert in your order of service. Even though your order of service says our opening hymn is 129, Let Love Continue Long, we're shaking things up this morning at Wellesley Hills. So For Everyone Born, your insert. For everyone born, a place at the table. For everyone born, a place at the table. Pretty spectacular, isn't it, walking in here and seeing these photos. We had our opening night last night, and it was really, really wonderful. Quickly, I want to acknowledge a few people. Sarah Whitman, Dawn Sorensen, they are the co-founders of Southborough Safe Spaces and the curators of this unbelievable art show. Thank you for all that you do, for the tireless hours that you have put into this and bringing this here to us. Thank you. The other person is our musician extraordinaire, Chris Reuben Winters, and his brother. They were unbelievable. Their jazzy cocktail music, it was just perfect for the vibe here. The other thing that I want to say a couple words about is, I'm sure many of you noticed our new banner, our rainbow banner hanging on the front wall. Now, there has been some concern, some legitimate and reasonable concern about that banner, and are we looking for trouble by having that hang there? And I can't help think about the 50s and the 60s and the civil rights movement, when people were being shot with cannon hoses and shot with guns, and into the 60s and 70s, the gay rights movement, when drag queens were throwing their shoes at the policemen, the Vietnam War, Kent State, the AIDS epidemic, and now our No Kings rallies and protests. There is nothing more that represents who we as Unitarian Universalists are than those words on the front of that building. So I'm very proud that we are a part of the movement right now. And thank you for the banner committee for putting that up. We are an open and affirming congregation. We will always be open and affirming. It doesn't matter to us what you look like or how you dress. It doesn't matter whom you love. It doesn't matter if you're gay or you're straight or you're bi or you're trans. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or a Jew, or if you're an atheist or a humanist. What matters is that every Sunday we are here. Every Sunday we are here supporting and loving and lifting each other up. Here, love is our only creed, and our religious practice is always love. So regardless of where you are on your own personal spiritual journey, regardless of how you name the holy in your life, welcome to UU Wellesley Hills, where you are welcome and embraced with love. We are joyfully called to worship this morning. That was long. I'm not usually that long. I had a lot to say this morning. So now, as we normally do, our camera there is out for repair. So let's see if we could spin around the camera up there. Let's wave to our folks on our online pews and welcome them. And now, is there anyone here for the first time? Raise your hand. I won't embarrass you. Welcome, 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 welcome. Now, let's turn to each other and offer each other a sign of peace and goodwill. So I just have a couple of announcements this morning. We need, Marianne, we still need one volunteer for next Sunday and 2 volunteers for the 26th. So please. Okay, so there's a sign up as soon as you go in the parish hall. And so I'm assuming those 3 spots are going to be filled by the time I get up the steps to parish hall, right? Good. Let's see. We continue our Voices Carry photo exhibit. Today, Monday, and Tuesday, the sanctuary will be open 1 to 3. So if you have friends or family or neighbors or drag people off the street, because it's pretty spectacular to see these photos. And lastly, next week, the 19th, we will be doing the blessing of the animals. If you remember, we did that last year. So it's going to be the dogs over here and the cats over here and the feathers over there. But you can also bring a picture. Bring a picture of a current pet or a pet that has crossed the Rainbow Bridge, and we'll do the blessing next week, and that's always a lot of fun.
Now, as we deepen into worship, I'd like to invite up Reed to light our chalice. The flaming chalice is not only a shining symbol of our Unitarian Universalist commitment to religious pluralism and humanitarian principles, but it is also a much-needed shining light into our world. We light it on our altar each Sunday and any time we gather as a community. If you are watching from home and have a chalice on hand, you may want to light yours now. The words of our chalice lighting are spoken in unison. You will find these words printed in your order of service or appearing on your screen if you're at home. Please join me in saying them. We light this chalice to illuminate our faithful way forward as an inspirational community of hope. Together, we seek spiritual growth. We strive for just and responsible action. We dedicate ourselves to leading lives of compassion and purpose. And now I'd like to invite anyone that wants to join me up front for a story.
Come on, folks, you can come up onto the steps.
We're good to go. So good morning again, everybody. My name is April Rosario. My pronouns are she, her, and I am so excited to tell you a story today. For our story today, I want to invite you to do some exploring with me. Does anyone here like to explore? Yeah? Oh, me too. I love exploring. Today, I want to invite us all to explore our UU value of equity and compassion, and really explore how compassion takes the form of treating everybody with dignity. Living these values is more than just a kind of feeling. Has anyone ever had a warm feeling? Like maybe when someone gives you a hug? Yeah. Or maybe when you eat a really warm chocolate chip cookie? Yeah. Those feelings are sometimes easy. But living into our values of equity and compassion are a little bit more work than receiving a hug or eating a chocolate chip cookie. It means acting with fairness and respect and courage, especially when we face hard truths. This weekend, some people are facing hard truths. They're facing a truth that for many of us, we no longer celebrate Columbus Day. Instead, we honor Indigenous Peoples Day, a day that lifts up voices and stories of Indigenous people who were already living on this land long before Columbus arrived. Practicing compassion in this way means saying everybody deserves to have their story told. Everybody deserves to be treated with dignity. So today, we're going to hear a story that is inspired and written based off the history and wisdom of Two-Spirit people. The term Two-Spirit is a translation from the Ojibwe word, which means a person who carries both masculine and feminine spirits in their body. It's a modern, intertribal term created in 1990 to offer cultural grounding, a culturally grounded way for Indigenous people to describe their gender and spiritual identities. The name Two-Spirit was chosen as an act of cultural reclamation to replace harmful labels and honor sacred roles. So, with that in mind, are you ready for a story? This story is called The One Who Walked Between. Long, long ago, before fences divided the land, before anyone had thought to name the stars, there was a village that lived beside a wide singing river that wound its way through. Can you wind your hand like a river, friends? Can anyone wind their hand like a river? Yeah. The people of the village honored balance in all things. Balance between the sun and the moon, between water and fire, between giving and receiving. And in this village, there was a child whose name was Ayohan, a name that means she brings happiness. I bet one of the ways we could bring happiness is to smile. Can you smile really big? Can anyone else smile really big? It's a good way to bring happiness. But as the child grew, she brings happiness. People began to see that the child was not only she or he. The child carried the softness of the river's flow. Remember that river we made? Yeah. And the strength of mountain stone. Can I see a muscle? Oh, yeah. And when the girls were learning songs about weaving, the child joined and sang beautifully. And when the boys were making bows, the child joined them too and shot straighter than most. Some were puzzled. A few whispered. But the child's grandmother, who was wise in the old ways, smiled and said, "The Creator loves balance. Sometimes that balance lives within one person." As the child grew older, people began to notice something else too. When arguments rose, the child could listen to both sides and find a path between them. When someone was sick or lonely, the child knew just what to say. And somehow, people felt better. One year, a terrible drought came. That means there was not enough water. The river shrank, crops withered, and the people quarreled about what to do. Some said they must pray to the sky spirits. Others said they had to dig deep wells. And arguments grew fierce, so fierce that nobody listened to anybody. The child stood in the center of the village and said quietly, "If the answer is not above, and if the answer is not below, what if it is in between?" The child led the people to the riverbed where small pools of water still glimmered. Together, they dug tunnels and channels that joined the pools and carried the last of the water to the fields. The people sang as they worked, and when the rain finally came, they gave thanks. Not just for the water, but for the one who had seen the way in between. And from that day forward, the people called the child the one who walks in between. You see, Two-Spirit people have long been honored and held as healers and teachers and the ones who carry the wisdom of balance in Indigenous cultures and tribes. And so it is told that those who walk between man and woman, between body and spirit, between ways of seeing, carry a special gift. A gift that reminds us that wholeness is not found in choosing one or the other, but in honoring the sacred in between. Now, technically that is where my story ends. But as you will come to learn, I almost never end a story with the end. I always end it with a takeaway and a challenge. So here's the takeaway. What I love about this story is that it reminds us that true balance and wisdom come from honoring all parts of who we are. When we respect ourselves in all the ways we want to express ourselves. As we honor Indigenous Peoples Day, let us also honor the wisdom that we can take from Two-Spirit people that teach us to live into our identity and to fully nurture the diversity and beauty that each of us holds. And now, the challenge, if you're willing to accept it. Do you like a challenge? I like a challenge, yeah. This week, I challenge all of you to look for ways you can move, walk, travel, journey, pick a word that makes sense for you, in the in-between. A bridge between people and ideas that might seem different to your own. That might mean speaking up when someone is left out. It might mean learning more about Indigenous Peoples Day, reading a book, finding out what land your home is on. It might mean finding a way to lift up voices that aren't always heard. Because friends, with each small act of understanding and kindness, we are able to live out our values and our faith and create a world where everybody's spirits can shine. Now that's the end.
Good morning. We can do much better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Sarah Whiteman. I am co-founder and one of the lead facilitators of Southborough Safe Spaces. We're in the midst of a name change, which is why you see Southborough Safe Spaces somewhere and Safer Spaces Project elsewhere. We felt that it was time to take off the leash of the location. So Mark shared with me that every Sunday this congregation collects a weekly offering as a part of your larger spiritual practice of generosity and outreach. And the theme of the month for October is emergency response. And this week, your offering will benefit our organization, Safer Spaces Project. This spectacular and growing gallery exhibit is only one small part of the work that we do. Safer Spaces Project provides spiritually inclusive support and advocacy for LGBTQIA+ youth in grades 6 through 12. Because everyone wants to know what that means, this work includes, but is not limited to, twice monthly youth-only meetings, parent-only gatherings providing support and resources, beloved community gatherings where anyone seeking or offering support can gather and be heard and held in love, endless coffee dates with parents and caregivers panicking that they're getting it all wrong. They never are. Preaching and consulting with faith communities and building impactful allyship. And as we are entering our 5th year, working with middle schoolers and high schoolers, we have discovered our latest role of supporting our graduates that might have fractured relationships with families and are trying to figure out how to adult on their own while living at college. Studies have proven that spiritual strength builds an incredible amount of resilience in body and mind, and Dawn and I are lifelong UCC church ladies, and we know that that three-legged stool of mind, body, spirit, you cannot have two without the third. It will not stand for long. Our meetings and programming provides the life-saving opportunity for queer youth to trust their inherent spirituality and to really experience themselves as the dominant culture. So if you think about it, any one of us has experienced ourselves as the dominant culture. And to be in a space that is so queer dominant that like I'm really the only person who's straight identifying is something that they don't have a chance to do. Not in school, not in church, not in sports, not in, maybe in theater, but you know, you get the point. It's really important for them to experience themselves not as, you know, existing on the margins. It's so super important. They get to create lasting relationships, explore their identities, and gather the tools and support to become resilient, mentally and emotionally healthy, and experience radical acceptance. Your donation today can be made electronically or by the plate collection that will be passed. If you are going to write a check, there's a note here that you should put SSP for Safer Spaces Project on the memo line. If you want a QR code to feel fancy and tech savvy, they're on our business cards. You can use that too. You can also visit the online giving page on the website and make sure that the plate collection is selected from the drop-down menu. Please be as generous as you can in your support of this important community program. Every dollar that you give goes directly to programming and activities for the kids and our guest facilitators that are incredibly valuable to our program. So thank you so much for being so unbelievably kind and welcoming and generous to us. We love working with truly affirming faith communities, and this one might be one of my favorites so far, so thank you so much.
Oh.
Walk the mile.
We open our circle of care and concern this morning with these words from Judy Geiger. Spirit of life, God of many names, source of hope, we come together at the end of another week, some worn down by struggles of health or home or work. May we be a community that makes space for the sharing of joys and sorrows, anger and hopes, with grace and forbearance. In our nation's life, we pause this holiday weekend to remember the Native American lives lost from the European colonization, which is now our soil. Teach us to remember our history. Though we cannot make amends for what has come before, may we learn from those ways never to repeat them in our lives today. May we develop new ways of relating to neighbor and strangers without violence or coercion, deceit or greed. Mother of grace, help us to find a sense of humility where we have privilege and strength where we have oppression. In our struggles, we may learn compassion, and in our power, may we learn temperance. As a community of faith, may we be a safe harbor in a world that is often harsh towards difference. Challenge us to use our presence as a healing force for justice and equity, knowing that although we have come far in the civil rights struggles of our times, there are many people still left behind, and the work of building the beloved community is just as pressing as ever before. Now I'd like to take a moment and reflect on these words in silence. And may we make it so. I'd like to now invite all who wish to come forward to light a candle of intention. And if you're comfortable, please tell us what person or place this intention is for, and we will carry them in our hearts. Those in our online pews, please type your joy or concern in the comment section, and we will also carry your intentions in our hearts. So please come down the center aisle, light your candle, and return by the side aisle. So let us begin.
This is a candle of hope for Israel and Gaza. May they start to heal. This is a candle of thanks. Thanks for a healthy and happy gathering that I had with my brother and sister and their spouses this past 3 days. It was truly wonderful. Nobody broke anything. Everybody was healthy. Woo-hoo.
This is a candle of concern for a very dear friend who's experiencing a very sudden and very serious medical issue.
Mine is a candle of celebration for my son who is visiting colleges this weekend, and the fact that we did not think we would get to this point.
This is a candle for Tricia, who has a new knee, and it's also for all the furloughed workers with or without pay.
I light the candle of joy for our friend Ellie Kell, who is celebrating her 90th birthday at our home church today. And I also light a candle of remembrance. If you'll notice, there are blank walls at the back of the sanctuary. Those would be filled if our gay brothers who died of AIDS in the 90s were here. And so it's a candle of remembrance also for Michael and Paul and Kevin and for all of those names on the AIDS memorial quilt.
I light this candle of thanks and appreciation for Reverend Mark for bringing to the board the concept of hosting this when the hosts for having struggles finding a place to do it. So thank you, Reverend Mark.
I light this candle in gratitude for my immediate family and this family community here, especially for my daughter Giselle, who's coming back from having been abroad for 9 months, coming back this week.
My candle is of concern for my daughter-in-law who works or soon to be worked for HUD and all the other federal workers who are losing their livelihood.
I'm lighting this candle of joy today as Ann and I are celebrating our 51st wedding anniversary. Thank you very much. I also have a bridging story. So it seems at the wedding anniversary or the reception after the wedding, my father left early with severe back pain. My father-in-law didn't even make it to the wedding because he was sick in bed the whole day. I would submit that both ailments were psychosomatic. Now, the reason I submit that is my father was born in England. My father-in-law was born in Ireland. So about 5 years later, they became friends. Thank you.
We honor all these intentions in this community this morning. Along these, we know are certain joys and sorrows that remain private this hour. Those too have a rightful place here. So this morning, we honor all of these with light. We light this candle for our families, for our beloveds, for our friends, for all of our relations, for those who are near and for those for whom we feel an unwanted distance, for the newborn, for the elderly, for all of the wounded children. May this candle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse. May its radiance pour out upon our hearts and spread light into the darkened corners of our world. Now please join in singing Comfort Me, number 1002 in the Teal hymnal, and we will sing the first verse.
Our reading this morning is an excerpt from James Baldwin's An Open Letter to My Sister, Angela Davis, and Don't Hesitate by Mary Oliver. James Baldwin writes, "We must fight your life as though it were our own, which it is, and render impassable with our bodies the quarter to the gas chamber. For if they take you in the morning, they will be coming for us that night. Therefore, we must fight for your life, not only because it is your life, but because it is our life." In Don't Hesitate, Mary Oliver writes, "If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instance when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb."
Wow. That was amazing. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to preach, and thank you for hosting this Voices Carry Gallery show in your sanctuary today. Having it here in the sanctuary means a lot to me, and I'm going to tell you why. When we look around this room at this amazing Voices Carry Gallery display, we are surrounded by over 500 images affirming queer joy. This collection was created to showcase the diversity, the possibility, and the promise of queer existence, to remind our queer young people that queer life is vast and luminous, that they can be anything they dream of being. These images are not simply art, they are witness. They tell the truth that queer joy is not fragile, it is fierce. It is embodied and sacred. Each photo whispers, "We are here. We are laughing. We are loving." And that is miraculous. Mary Oliver says, if you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Every time I look at these images, I am reminded of that. Joy does not ask for permission. It erupts often in the very places the world overlooks. Joy is not delicate. It is fierce. It's what I've come to understand as a savage audacity. The unrelenting insistence that love, laughter, art, friendship, spirit, mind, and body are worthy of celebration. And as we think about joy, love, and the savage audacity to claim those as our own, I have a few questions for you today. Have you been focusing on the things that cannot be redeemed, or on the possibilities that life still has to offer? Where have you noticed love's beginnings in your life? We hope these photos on the walls speak to you, that they help you remember the moments in your own life when love broke through, that they remind us how love keeps beginning again and again and again, like the song. We like to say, Sarah and I, we like to say that the Safer Spaces Project began around a church kitchen island where all good church ladies gather to save the world. And now before you go and judge and think and do those edits in your head, please know that in our circles, church lady is a non-gendered term. It's very gender expansive to include everyone. We know that many beloved church ladies, and we know many beloved church ladies whose pronouns are he, him. The church kitchen, though, is where the real work of community happens. It's the sacred meeting place where community takes shape over conversation and caffeine. What began that day around that church kitchen island grew into a mission of belonging and hope and care for young people who deserve to see a future where their light can shine. And when I'm really honest about the beginnings of safe spaces and the beginnings of love itself, the project didn't really begin in that kitchen. It began long before, in the moment when love first broke through in my life, when I decided to be true to who I am instead of who the world wanted me to be. It began again when my best friend and co-founder, Sarah Whiteman, a fiercely loving mom of a transgender son, decided that her love for her child would not be confined by anyone else's comfort. Mary Oliver says life has some possibility left, something better than all the riches or power in the world. Very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. When Sarah and I created Safer Spaces and later this Voices Carry Gallery, we were thinking about what we loved most, our kids, and the brave, creative, tender-hearted youth in their circles. We wanted them to see a world that welcomed them, to know they could grow into any version of themselves they had dreamed of being. We wanted them to have what so many of us wished for, friendship that holds steady through chaos, that listens when words fail, that calls you back to yourself when the noise gets too loud. Through friendship and through this work, Sarah and I have learned what hard-won joy looks like. It's the kind that emerges from the middle of challenge, the kind that shows up after long nights in an emergency room with a psych hold for one of our kids, in mental health clinics, after meetings where hope felt thin, after moments when exhaustion met conviction and somehow love was what carried that day. Joy has come to us in laughter that breaks the tension open, in phone calls that end in shared relief, in texts that simply say you're not alone. Joy arrived in the stories of young people who found safety, who rediscovered their sacred worth, who said, "This space changed my life." And joy lives here too on these walls. Each image tells a story that Sarah, not me, Sarah, holds in her heart as if it were her own. She alone knows the faces, the names, and the hope behind every portrait on these walls. Sometimes that blows me away. For her and for me, I lost my space. For her and for me, Voices Carry is not only a gallery, it's a living testimony. It's a mirror of what happens when love breaks through. Joy, so many smiles, so much movement. Joy becomes the pulse of our shared resistance. Love will break through. Hear that again. Love will break through. You can count on it. Laughter will not be silenced. Joy is the evidence that our souls collectively rise toward one another. Our souls collectively rise toward each other. Love and friendship are unbreakable bonds, like the fierce, audacious mama bears who fight for their children and refuse to back down. Like the steadfast church ladies who are, in fact, every gender and background, and who hold the line with care, courage, and a casserole. The ones saying, love begins here. When I look around the sanctuary filled with these portraits and with your beautiful faces, I see sacred text. No words written on paper, but living scripture written in light, in faces, in gestures. Each image tells a story that might otherwise have been erased. One, each one, a small act of resurrection. Now, I'm going to ask you to step out of the nice boxes that we like to put ourselves in and put on your imagination hats. You're going to Put on our imagination hats. Imagine with me for a moment. Imagine each person depicted here on these walls, embodied, sitting here in these pews with us today. Imagine these empty seats full. There's 590 pictures on the walls. 590, probably more because there's twos. 590 bodies in this space. Imagine these human bodies knowing you're welcome. This sanctuary full to bursting. Each person on these walls here are your neighbors. Some of them you know, some of them are just friends you have yet to meet. Each person on these walls have been told at some point in their lives they are not welcome in a sanctuary like this one. Some to our faces. I speak the honest truth when I tell you that this gallery itself is not welcome at every sanctuary on Washington Street in Wellesley, Massachusetts. I know that for a fact. So I'm here to remind you that the work you do here at 309 Washington Street is important. The sign out front that might make some a little uncomfortable is so incredibly important. If these photos, the gallery itself is not welcome, what does that say about the people in them? This exhibit is so powerful to me because every person represented here has in some way reclaimed their right to take up space and to shine. The savage audacity of voices carry is full volume, turned all the way up. These photos don't show one kind of queer life, they show all kinds of queer life. Love in its infinite forms, friendship as a radical act, existence as testimony. Mary Oliver reminds us that joy is not made to be a crumb. How often we've all been asked to settle for crumbs, crumbs of acceptance, crumbs of visibility, crumbs of safety. And joy. Joy refuses to be rationed. Love spills over, unstoppable. It fills the cracks the world leaves behind. It moves like water, that joy, that love, carving new paths where none were meant to exist. One of my own don't hesitate moments came 5 years ago when Sarah and I first met, about a year before Safer Spaces began. Our friendship has been for me like water in the desert, a daily reminder that love can exist in the ordinary, in text messages, in laughter, in the quiet knowledge that someone has your back no matter what. Friendship is not a side note to this movement, it is the movement. It's where resilience is born. It's how we learn to trust joy again after loss, how we remember that we are not alone. Friendship is that instant when love begins. I hope your best friends are here today with you in the sanctuary, and if they're not, I hope you bring them soon. I hope you share this piece of your joy with them. So today, surrounded by these living portraits, I invite you, each of you, to do as Mary Oliver says, don't hesitate. When joy finds you in these images, in a shared glance, in the voice of a friend, don't shrink from it. Be brave. Be brave. Don't ration it. Let it fill you. Let it overflow. Let it become your resistance, your prayer, your offering to a world that needs to remember how to love without fear, how to put up banners and be community together, because together you'll be okay. Love will carry you. Joy is not meant to be a crumb, and neither are we. May it be so. And our closing hymn is quite possibly my favorite hymn of all time, and I requested it specifically from Mark. Closing hymn is number 121, We'll Build the Land.
Now that our celebration is concluding this morning, we extinguish our chalice. Our closing words are spoken in unison, and again, you'll find them printed in your order of service, or for those of you at home, appearing on your screen. extinguishing this flame which has burned bright in our midst. We revere what has been kindled within each one of us. Warmth in community, the light of truth, and a perpetual spark of hope.
We shall overcome when we can truly celebrate the diversity of contributions and talents offered by all people. We shall overcome hatred and prejudice and oppression. When we can truly extend our hands to one another in loving acceptance, we shall overcome the past that haunts us now. Living in peace and freedom, we shall overcome the wrongs that have happened and the debts left unpaid. Let us join together in that commitment to overcome. And let us say together, Amen.